All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
What a great start to the morning already. How about that food from Suzette, huh? Oh. If I could just have her come to the house and cook it. I mean, if I could just go to events with Suzette all the time, that almost got me in a lot of trouble right there. I almost started this morning off really rough. Well, good morning. We are actually so glad that everybody is here this morning. It is such an honor to have been asked to co-chair this event. This is really a full circle morning for Julie and I. A lot of you have probably heard the story of our arrival here to Franklin. It's been told a few times. If you haven't heard the story, we'll tell it briefly here this morning. We were living in the Northeast, and we were looking for something more. We wanted more time together as a family. We wanted more values that we cherished. We wanted more community, more opportunities to serve. We wanted more time with people like we're gathered in the room here today. And so we loaded our kids into a Jeep and we started driving. We went down the coast, we went across the mountains, down to the Gulf, into Texas, and then back up through Nashville. We ended up being on the road for about a month, 17 states, 4,700 miles, looking for our forever home. But it was a chance meeting stop in Nashville at a Puckett's in Nashville, where we were telling the waitress about our journey looking for our forever home. And the waitress said to us, well, if y'all want to live with the nicest people in the country, y'all need to move to Franklin. Now, yeah, amen, right? Now, I had already been on the road for 3 weeks, and I wasn't going to go south to go north. And so I committed to someday looking at Franklin another time. So we went ahead and went on north and decided to put our house on the market at a time when our realtor said, this is the worst time in the world you could try to sell your house. But nonetheless, a buyer came in a few days later, offered us cash, and said, be out in 21 days. Julie looked at me and said, well, where are we going? I said, well, the waitress said Franklin, so we're going to Franklin. True story.
This is true.
And so we moved to Franklin, sight unseen. We rented a house online, and we showed up the same day the moving truck did. And we have never looked back. It was the best move we've ever made.
The objective of all of it was not about the move. It was really about the more. As we were talking to our friends in New Jersey about what we were thinking about doing, they're like, oh, you're not going to do it. And we said, we really are. And we knew that things were changing, and we didn't know exactly why or what, but we knew more. That was just what kept coming to us. So once we got here to Franklin, we were like, okay, so how do we find this more? What do we do? How do we get involved? And one of the first organizations that we learned about was One Gen Away. And we're very connected to Chris and Elaine and what they've started. We started with food distribution at some of the schools that they were at, and we were just kind of blown away at what we saw and how it all worked. And then it led to us rescuing food at Costco on Sunday mornings, bright and early, and taking it to, I don't know, probably one of your original places, right? So it was a really great opportunity to get involved and to start feeling that more. So we have been amazed at what God has done through Chris and Elaine and One Gen Away for Franklin.
And for the record, on those Sunday mornings, every one of those baked goods made it to the warehouse. It was early, they smelled delicious, but I promise you, everyone made it, I guarantee it. Look, it's been amazing serving with Chris and Elaine and One Gen Away, but they're so much more than food distribution. It really is a movement, and it has been fun to watch and be a part of. A mission that has been rooted in dignity and compassion and belief that no one should go hungry. And the way that they have served this community and communities in the South and all over Tennessee, and I will promise you that someday this organization is going to serve this whole country. And it's going to be because people in this room are going to make that happen. And I believe that because God believes that, I guarantee you. In this next video, you're going to see just why. You're going to see some of that story. You're going to hear from people who have been around this from the very beginning, packing boxes, loading trucks, faithfully showing up for their neighbors.
You also hear some incredibly moving stories about the real impact this work is having. These are personal moments of families being lifted up, relationships being formed, and lives being changed.
So as you watch the video, I hope you maybe see yourself in these videos, and let's check it out.
We're Chris and Elaine Whitney. We have the privilege of being the founders of One Gen Away, and it was birthed about, 13 years ago now. Just praying one day, and God dropped this phrase in my heart, one generation away.
Our daughter was born with spina bifida. That was our second child, and it was a great miracle. She had 5 vertebra opening with 17 surgeries, and Chris had lost his job at the time. It was the middle of winter, and I was in the food lines, and the heaviness that you feel, and you feel really invisible, or you wanting to be invisible just because you're so embarrassed and shamed.
Elaine was a stay-at-home mom. And as a man, you felt like a failure, like I couldn't provide for my family. And that was brutal. I hated that. And so, never dreamed you'd be in that line. And thank God, we've never had to be in one again. But I have this thing about never forgetting about where you came from.
From now, seeing it on this end, I just want people to feel like that hope, honor, and dignity. We just want them to feel seen and realize that it was just a season. And if we got out of it, anybody could get out of it.
My name is Alyssa Turturro, and I heard about One Gen Away actually through a mom's group that I was in. So I had recently filed for divorce from my husband at the time, and during the discovery process, I found out that he had cameras in our home, he had put a tracker on my car, had been visiting my place of business, and so I had to get an order of protection and move out immediately, which meant I now needed to pay a down payment for, a deposit for an apartment and then take on those full bills. And I don't qualify for anything. And so that is where I was when One Gen Away kind of came in my life. And when you think about a grocery bill in these times, $150, $200, that's a lot of money that you can use on other things. A few times, like my son had an emergency that needed to be taken care of. And so that food helped eliminate that. But this type of giving from the heart without any stipulation is really, really helpful, because people assume that I would never need these services. So I just remind people that you never know what food insecurity is going to look like. It has the face of every single one of us in Tennessee.
I've been involved with One Gen Away for close to a decade right now, not only from disaster areas and visiting, but also to the local distributions here in Middle Tennessee. When you're there and you're meeting the people, you're talking with the people, you're hugging on the people, you're praying with the people, it truly makes a difference. Last fall was one of the last distributions we did at Waverly. We were so excited that in the truck that we got flowers. And we wanted to make a special effort that day. Instead of loading those flowers into the trunk or into the back seat, we wanted to present them to the individuals. It could have been a man, it didn't matter. And I went up to a car, and the lady looked at me, she said, "Are you kidding?" And I said, "No, ma'am, I'd like to present you with these flowers along with all this food." She looked at me with tears. She said, "My husband has just passed, and I probably haven't been presented with flowers in over 50 years, and today's my birthday." And she started to tear up. I started to tear up, and I'll leave you with, can it get any better than that?
We've gotten to be partners with One Gen from the aspect that Chris and Elaine have allowed us to distribute food boxes out of our local juvenile court office. And some might wonder, how does that partnership work, and why would juvenile court need food boxes? And what some community members might not understand is that while we do work with a lot of kids who have gotten in trouble, of course, our family court system also serves all dependent and neglected children in the county as well. And sometimes those kiddos can't go home. And in some circumstances, under that umbrella, family members might step in and assist for short-term stays while the family parents, the custodians are getting their feet back under them. For us to be able to help that family with some food needs just right off the bat has been such a blessing, and really provides sustainability for some of those unstable situations. It gives us the opportunity to be something that the community that we serve might not always think of us as. The court system's going to help me, and the truth is the court system's going to lean on partners like One Gin to offer assistance to your family because we care about you and we know you can do better. Providing a food box is the one thing that our staff can do that doesn't require paperwork here at the court system, and that's actually one of my favorite things about it is that the families don't have to meet a certain requirement. We can know the need, we can meet the need, and we can move on.
My name's Officer Ryan Schuman. I am the Public Affairs Officer for the Franklin Police Department, and I've had a lot of interactions over the years with One Generations with different events that they've done throughout the city. But I have more of an intimate story that I had with One Generation Away. I encountered a homeless guy in a parking lot in a grocery store, and this guy had nothing. He had no food, no water. His car was broke down, and he was on his way to Florida, and he had a little dog with him, and he was at his wit's end. He waved me down and said he needed help, and I said, well, what do you need? He said, well, my car's broke down. I need everything, right? And I'll never forget, I'm sitting in the grocery store and I put my head down on my steering wheel and I said a little prayer. How am I gonna do this? And I went into the grocery store to get some water for this guy, and I ran into Elaine, and I hadn't seen Elaine in years, and she basically just said, hey, what are you doing in here? And I said, well, it's ironic, I've got this guy out in the parking lot and he's got no food, no water, or anything. And Elaine, she said, is he living out of his car? I said, yeah, but his car won't start because it's broken. And I said, what do you think I can do? And she said, well, I've got a guy named Brian Sweat who is with Mechanics on a Mission, and he can fix the car. And I basically can get you all the food you need and all the water you need. And I was just like, what? I mean, I just prayed about this in the parking lot. And over a week's time, we basically get this guy's car fixed. We get him all the food he needs, all the water he needs, his dog. We give him to the shelter so that he can find a good home. You know, here was a situation where somebody needed help, and you know, they stepped up. It's times like that where the rubber meets the road, and you know, that's where you learn what organizations take care of people.
We started the back of a Hyundai Santa Fe, man, with just this crazy dream. And here we are today, starting to see the realistic possibility, the realism that we are going to see in our lifetime 1 million people being fed on the Saturday morning. And man, we couldn't do it without you. Without you, this would never happen. And so we just need more yous. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you haven't volunteered yet, thank you for even thinking about it.
I've watched that video a couple times, and Officer Schulman, you still make me cry every time I watch that video, man. That is awesome. That is awesome.
You know, it really comes down to when you give and when you serve and when you believe in a mission like this, you become a part of that story, and it is richer than anything you can imagine. It is a bigger blessing than you would even think that it could be.
That video is community, and that's our more. I hope that's your more, because that's what we're all about here, for sure. You.
Okay.
I know, I could get
So
stuck
we're
in
like,
this moment right here. I know.
So
hold on.
this morning, it's very, very special. It's already been special, but it's going to get a little bit better. We have the privilege of introducing our guest speaker, and it's someone whose heart and mission aligns perfectly with One Gen Away.
Something really special kind of happened a little off here before we introduce Bob. Something happened when Chris and Elaine asked us to co-chair. We knew that Bob was going to speak, and we had a chance to introduce him. And so I went to grab off our bookshelf a copy of Bob's book that I'd read, Love Does. And as I grabbed it off the bookshelf, a card fell out, and it was from Julie's mom, who had passed 5 years ago, with this note to me that was one of her fabulous, fabulous encouraging notes that hit me on a perfect day. And I just thought, man, the ask was just the perfect ask at the perfect moment for me to grab for this book. And man, God just really does know what he's doing. And just a perfect example of love in action. So anyway, with that, it all just really makes sense for us this morning. Bob Goff is a New York Times bestseller, author of books like Love Does, Everybody Always, and Undistracted. He's a speaker, a teacher, a former lawyer, and truly one of the most joyfully unconventional people that you'll ever meet.
Bob's life work is rooted in loving people the way Jesus did, without condition, without hesitation. He founded Love Does, which is a nonprofit that brings education and justice to vulnerable communities, like places in Uganda, Nepal, and Somalia.
What we're excited to hear about from Bob this morning, and I think you're going to love to hear about from Bob this morning, is it's about showing up. It's about being present, and it's about loving your neighbor in a way that actually changes things.
Which is exactly what One Gen Away does. Meeting people where they are, with compassion, food, and dignity. It's such a beautiful overlap of these two missions and between One Gen and Bob, which is faith in action.
So get ready to laugh, be inspired, maybe even be challenged. But most of all, please join us in welcoming the one and only Bob Goff.
Thank you. Opa! Wow. Well, hi, everybody. So I'm Bob. I am a recovering lawyer. I'm taking little baby steps towards Jesus. You guys are a resilient bunch. How many of you, when that alarm went off this morning, are going, how committed am I to that? You have to ask the question. You're like, no! But I think that's a great indicator that there's a community. I mean, I do stuff for people across an ocean, but you only find two things in the scriptures about that. Jonah got swallowed and Paul got shipwrecked. But you'll find a ton of stuff about going across the street. And there's something beautiful when you're willing to do the work. This is from Romans 8. It says the entire universe is up on tiptoes, just waiting to see what will happen next. Isn't that awesome? You have a God of the universe that knows everything that has happened, everything that is happening, and everything that's going to happen. Amen? But the angels don't. The angels only know whatever God tells them. Like, check it out. Like, God says to the angel, go tell Joseph he's going to be a father. Could you imagine Joseph? He's like, no way. And then God's like, Yahweh. So I think One Gen is just blowing the angels away. God knows how it's going to turn out, and God loves people, even the difficult ones. And have you noticed there's a lot of difficult people out there? No pointing fingers. But it's crazy in this time where it's a little bit hard. We get distracted from some of the important stuff that's happening right here. Matthew 25, I was hungry, and you fed me. I mean, you can just stop right there. I was thirsty, and he gave me something to drink. Officer, you made me cry. Stop it. Like, I was a stranger. I was kind of creepy, but you invited me in. I was sick, and you comforted me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was in jail, and you came. That's it. You don't need a plan for your life. This is it. Hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, people in jail. What I want us to do is not just agree with Jesus. And I love that when you woke up this morning, you made the decision, I'm going to actually take this stuff seriously. Because I think it really matters for God's heart that we show up for our neighbors, for people. And somebody asked me about this stupid ball cap. Can I just clarify this? My neighbor Carol was a huge Red Sox fan. And she got cancer. We knew she was going to be in heaven by the end of the week. And so we made a deal. Foolishly, I said, I will wear your Red Sox hat for the rest of my life and represent the Sox here on earth. But in exchange, every time Jesus walks by you, you need to mention my name. There's that verse, I knew you not. I'm like, Carol! So, know why you're doing what you're doing. I teach at Pepperdine Law School. Could you imagine me teaching at a top-tier law school? Like, everybody passes the bar. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. But I also teach at San Quentin Penitentiary. It's been awesome. I've had 850 guys over the last decade in my class. It's like old home week because nobody ever graduates because most of them are in for life. And it's a gated community. And so at Christmas time, I wanted to go to bring a little bit of cheer to them. So I thought, I'm going to go as Santa. Because I used to look like Santa, like from here up, like me and Nate Mather back there. But now it's from here up. So I got on my red suit and my buckle and all that, and I got to the front gate. And they're not big, it turns out, on baggy clothes, because you bring in hacksaws and crack and stuff. So I did this Jedi move. I'm like, you want to let me in? And they let me in. So now I'm sitting in the grounds at San Quentin, and this guy comes and sits on my lap. And he's a member of the Manson family. He's been in my class for years. And he said, I've never sat on Santa's lap before. And I said, well, I've never had a serial killer sitting in my lap before. So this is a first for both of us. And I asked him this is how it goes with Santa, what do you want? And I thought he'd say an alibi, but what he said is he just said, I just need a call. I need a call on Christmas morning. And so the warden's a good guy, and he set up a video camera. We had this great conversation. Then he said, hang on a second. He stepped out of the screen, and the next guy sat down. And then we had a conversation. He said, he stepped out, and the next guy, and they panned down. There's 30 guys in the row. That's what the line looks like for one gen away. And you're just loading up people's trunks with dignity and food, and you're living out the stuff that Jesus talked about all the time. You're not getting distracted by all the crazy going on around you. You're part of something big and eternal. It's like right down Main Street on the stuff that Jesus said, if you want to meet me, you got to meet them. And if following Jesus doesn't lead me and you to hurting, lonely, isolated, hungry, thirsty people, we're not following Jesus. We're just being popular, and I don't want to be comfortable anymore. And I love that you guys are just full of mischief, and you're saying, we're going to make this thing happen right here, not in concept, but we're going to actually make it happen every single day. I do some work in Uganda, and when I got to Uganda the first time, we went to a little village, and the kids are playing soccer, and it was time to leave, and so I got in the Jeep, and I'm waving, and 3 or 4 kids are running after the Jeep, and so I get both hands going. Now there's like 15 kids running after the Jeep, and I'm doing it faster, and now there's 40 kids running after the Jeep, and I asked the driver, what's going on? And here in Nashville, this means hi. In Uganda, this means follow me. And I love that that's what you're doing. Following Jesus means showing up for the people that I saw on the screen. And One Gen Away is just a reflection of all of you collaborating to say, let's make this stuff happen. Let's move from the concept to actually making it happen. And then invite people to safe places. That's what I'm hearing. When I come here, I don't just feel invited, I feel welcomed. I think when somebody shows up with a food insecurity need, they feel welcomed. Although I have the hat, I'm not much of a baseball fan. I've never gone to a game. Evidently, we have a major league team in San Diego. Who would know? But they had a game, and they invited me to throw the first pitch. All right. And so I got out there and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have my son throw the first pitch because it'd mean more to him. And he 3-hopped it to the plate. And I thought it was a strike. Friend, that's how good fathers see our attempts. He sees what you're trying to do, and he just sees your heart beating for people that are hurting and lonely and hungry and thirsty. And he loves seeing these attempts. So I love that you're just showing up in those ways. Well, it turns out that they had a booth behind home plate, some box, and it's filled with food and for probably 60 people. And there's just me and a couple little kids and Sweet Maria. And so I thought, I'm going to go up to the nosebleed section, to the people that got the cheap tickets. And I said, I know this sounds so creepy, like come see my etchings. But I've got this place right behind home plate. There is all this food there. What I want you to do is just come to the door and look inside, and you decide if it's safe. And if it's safe, you enter in and get all the food you need. And if you think it's a little creepy, you can go right back up to the nosebleed section. And people started coming and entering. And so I got more people and more people. They threw me out of the stadium because we had 100 people in there. That's what's happening. One gen away. You're not asking for permission to do this stuff that Jesus said. You're not waving at Jesus anymore. You're actually engaging this stuff to say, let's go. Let's see what'll happen, knowing that heaven is up on its tiptoes, just waiting to see what'll happen next. So don't get distracted by the things going on. I know the world is really loud right now. I was in the Midwest with 700 cowboys for some reason, not football players, but like the hat. And I did not blend in. And a guy walked up to me, and sometimes when people hear I'm from California, they'll say two things. One, don't move to Franklin, and you'll hate it. And the second thing, they'll make some remark. They'll say, you know, he's a couple fries short of a Happy Meal, or they'll say some little dig. Well, this guy came up with this cowboy hat, and he said, I don't think your lid's on right. And I was deciding whether to be offended, and then I looked down at my coffee cup, and my lid wasn't on right. He was just trying to be helpful. And here's the deal, and I'll wrap it up with this and invite Chris up. Loving people the way that Jesus loved them means you're going to be constantly misunderstood. Has that happened to you guys? That happens to me all the time. We just need to know why we're doing what we're doing. We need to answer the question the guy on my knee at San Quentin answers, which is, what do you want? And what I want to do is stop waving at Jesus and start engaging this stuff, and you're doing it. And this isn't a concept. It's actually happening, and I'll tell you, heaven is up on its tiptoes. Just waiting to see what's going to happen next year in Franklin and beyond. As you guys take this really stuff, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you comforted me. I was in jail and you came. Hey, Chris, come on up here. Let me ask you a couple questions. Come on, let's invite Chris up. Wow. Well done. What does this feel like? This must feel like a bit of a report card on what you guys are doing as a community.
It's surreal, you know, to see this room full. We were talking about last night that we dreamed about having an event in this room. And now to see this many people here, it's early, you know. I mean, you and I were at 5:45. We were rolling in here, you know.
Yeah, but I think about, like, a lot of you, there was anticipation. There was a little bit of agony, but a lot of anticipation. No.
I raised my hand and went, do I want to get up?
So I know the question, the first question was, why is the alarm going off so early? But then the second question is, what does one gen away even mean?
So it started with just praying one day, and God dropped that phrase in my heart, and I had no idea what to do with it. And I've got a few years behind me, as you would, you know. And
yeah.
So I reserved a domain name, and I find that so funny because I remember when there were no cell phones. You remember, had to have a pager and go find a payphone to call somebody or something. You ever had that, you know? And so so I just felt like God said it's a generation away from eliminating racism, denominationalism, and poverty in America. And it was churches crossing racial and denominational lines to serve their communities unconditionally. I'm a firm believer if we as the body of Christ can't get along, how in the world do we expect the world to get along?
Yeah, good word.
You know, this is where we can lead and lead well.
Yeah. Tell us, take us, you and Elaine are in the back of the car, and you're just wondering, how are we going to put this together? And now you're feeding thousands of people. Like, help us understand that arc. Like, when we try to figure out how that is, what that's attributable to, tell us what comes to mind.
Man, just the grace and mercy of God. Just a dream. You know, and you have a lot of, well, for me, I have a lot of dreams in life. And dream big. You know, I've always taught my kids to dream big. And so I dreamed about that, man. What if we fed 1 million people on a Saturday morning and 1 million people were prayed with face to face by the local church? It's hard not liking people when they just serve you unconditionally. And if the church wants to be loved, then we ought to just go serve people unconditionally. This isn't really complicated. It's just pretty simple, you know? And so I think that the hard part was, would anybody follow? Because I remember a great story. And I don't know if any pastors are in the room. They don't get up this early, so we're probably safe. I remember being with a group of pastors. You know, we had Empty Hands Fellowship here, some of you know in Franklin, and we had a group. Then we had Sinago, because it became a whole bunch of people, and then we would meet. And I told these pastors, man, I got this idea about, and I said 1 generation away, and it was like that, crickets. I came home and told Elaine, I said, this must be the worst idea I've ever had in my life. Because they were like, didn't say a word. And so we couldn't be moved by what we saw. We just had to be moved by what God revealed to us. And we knew we couldn't do this alone. And we knew this had to be led by volunteers. And we're living in a city where we moved 21 years ago almost now, where we didn't even know anybody. So it's like, wow, only God could do that. And so here we are with probably 650 or so of our closest friends right now. And what a privilege. Because without you, there wouldn't be that sign.
So good. There's a verse, this is Paul talking to his friends, and he said, the only thing that matters is your faith expressed in love. And that resonated with me. I started asking Jesus every morning, hey, what can I do for you? And the answer every morning is not a thing. Because he doesn't want our help. What he wants is our hearts. It was a lot of heart stuff that got you out of bed. It's a lot of heart stuff that's kept you involved in what you're doing. And I think it's because you guys are just like dealers in hope. So tell me about this. What does like hope in action mean for you? What comes to mind when you think of expressing your faith in love and letting hope off the leash in this community? What's that look like for you?
Well, you saw some of the stories, you know, Officer Schumann, Ryan, and I would go way back, you know, now. And the story of that man, the story of the woman with the flowers, or being on a disaster relief trip in America and having somebody look at you and say, thank you for not forgetting about us. Whew, man. When you're a pastor, you know, a pastor to church, we planted a church. When you pastor and says, someone looks at you and says, thank you for not forgetting about me, I go, wow, we got some work to do. If there's people that are walking around everyday life that feel forgotten, man, and that's what hope looks like to me. It looks like walking up to somebody you don't even know Just because you feel an unction or a leading, or whatever you want to call it, and just say, hey, I know this is crazy. You don't know me. I just want to, how are you doing today? And I mean it. Don't like, hey, how you doing, and walk off. Just look them in the eye and like, how are you doing? That's what we do on a Saturday morning. And the stories are incredible. Incredible. I mean, I just think about, I remember one of the stories of our guys on our board who is a card-carrying introvert, so that's always a fun thing, right? Pushing a grocery cart, and this woman, he just asked the question, so, is there anything we can pray with you about today? And she looks at him and she says, yes, my brother's dying. Would you pray that my family would let him go? Think about that for a minute. In a parking lot with somebody you don't know. And he said, I prayed, and I look up and she's weeping. And she said, I thought I came to get food today, but I came so you could pray with me. That's hope. That's what hope looks like. At another distribution in Franklin, it was First Horizon, one of the banks anyway, and this blonde-haired woman, man, she was just bubbly, full of life, and she's grabbed a shopping cart and she's running, like sprinting. I can't wait, and all of a sudden, we're about half hour or so in, and she walks up to me and she is trying to hold it together, visibly shaken. She goes, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I need you. It's okay. So I walk over and there's two women, two children, their sisters and niece and nephew. And the mom of the two kids looks at me and said, this is my sister, and she's got stage 4 cancer and she's dying. In a parking lot. And I looked at the woman with stage 4 cancer, and I said, what do you want? She said, I hurt so bad all the time. She said, I want to go home. And I had the privilege of praying with that woman. If you want to know if there's a God, show up on a Saturday morning, because you're going to see him. It's, everyone in this room is the face of Jesus. Isn't that wild? Isn't that what he says in the Word? I mean, we're all his kids. And it's just, that to me where hope lies. And you might say, man, I've got it all together, but you still feel like I haven't done anything. Just showing up on a Saturday morning and smiling and looking someone in the eye and saying, what can we do for you? How can I help you? We love to collaborate, and Brian Sweat's in the room here somewhere with Mechanics on a Mission. We love connecting people to other organizations because we need each other, man. We need each other. We do food. We do that pretty well. But I don't fix a car. I don't know how to fix a car. I don't know anything about that. Those are things I don't know. Or if you're in a domestic violence situation, I know how to call Bridges and how I can connect them. That's hope, right? Together we are hope. And the world needs hope right now. If they've ever needed it, this is our time.
Yeah, love the answer on that. And this is going to kind of turn the corner. And I know in a moment we're going to have an opportunity. Chris will get us in that direction to say, so how do we be part of this? They're not trying to raise money for One Gen Away. They're trying to be a conduit for your generosity into the world. There's a guy that I know back in Washington, D.C., and the thing about it, if you ever said anything of his you liked, he would leave it with you. I made the mistake of saying, hey, that's a nice tie. And he left his tie on my backpack. I'm like, buddy, I'm not a tie guy. I wouldn't know how to tie that thing. But that was his thing, if you mentioned it. And I was in there when Dick Halverson, who'd been the Senate chaplain for years, came in, and he said, I wore this watch every year when I was on the Senate floor, and I want you to have it. And he gave it to my friend. He looked at it and he said, wow, thanks so much. And Dick left, a new guy walked in, First thing he said, hey, that's a nice watch. And you know what he did? My friend said, hey, I want you to have this. This guy died without anything. We're rivers, we're not reservoirs. And I think One Gen Away assembles people like this for a morning like this to say, can we funnel some of your generosity? Can we be hands and feet? And then also come on Saturday and let's go blow some people's minds, including your own. So Chris, tell us what's the next step for One Gen? What are you inviting people into? And what is it that they can be part of?
Yeah, so the next step is we're growing, man. And that Feed a Million is in our sights. So we have this 10-year BHAG, you know what that means? Big, hairy, audacious goal that we're going to feed 1 million people on a Saturday morning, and 1 million people are going to be prayed with face-to-face by the local church. And that's being launched out of Franklin, Tennessee. And Bob just tossed a watch to my oldest grandson, who I love ferociously. And we have our 2 youngest grandbabies in the room that are 8 weeks old, twins. But yesterday, y'all don't know this, but yesterday we had Hudson was at baseball practice, so he couldn't be here, but my grandkids were standing at that podium yesterday, and they were playing Chris Whitney. And they were sharing the story of One Gen. Literally, they were talking, Bob and Diana, our friends from St. Louis, are nodding their head. Diana's like, Everly could lead One Gen right now. She's 10. But at 10 years old, she gets food insecurity. That's the vision. My kids, my grandkids, your grandkids, that's how we change the world. One person, one child, starts with your family. Our events are kid-friendly, bring your kids. I see the future of, and then on that Saturday morning, what I think is going to happen, kind of like Love does, is somebody's going to say, well, I don't want to wait a year. When can we do this again? And then pretty soon, every Saturday of the year, 1 million people are going to be touched face to face by another human being. Not via FaceTime, face to face. And man, this will be the greatest, if we want to be the greatest city, if we want to be the it city, if we want to be the greatest country in the world, then we must serve the least of these. And until then, we're not the greatest anything. Because that's, as Ryan Schumann said, is where the rubber meets the road. And that's where we see the future. And the only way we can do that is through you. You mind if I get up and
No, get up there.
and talk
Go.
a little bit?
How about say thank you for One Gen's doing?
So as we talk about this future, we've been getting a lot of calls on questions about, government funding, federal funding. We receive no federal funding. We don't apply for federal funding because there's just too many things we have to do that we don't want to have to do. Juliana Stachersky, one of our former board members, said this. It's like we ask people to prove they're sufficiently deficient to need help. Think about that for a minute. Hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, let me tell you, first of all, you're not worthy to have a pair of boots. I just want you to know that before you pull your bootstraps up. That I really don't value you whatsoever. I want you to pull your bootstraps up now and call me when you get there. And but if you can find my phone number. It's just not how this works. So that's why we don't want to ask a lot of questions. I don't want to have to ask, hey, how much money do you make? Or why do you do this? Or what about this? It's like, man, I never read Jesus ever doing that. So as a team, the amazing team of people we get to work with, we've just decided, man, we're not going to be in fear about what the federal government does or does not do. Because I don't believe it's their responsibility to feed the poor, to feed the food insecure. Isaiah 58 says, this is the fast I've called you to. Feed the poor, clothe the naked, and house the homeless. This is what the church is mandated to do, man. This is our job. I'm going to tell you a crazy thing. How many people served in the military in this room? Thank you. Bloomberg, y'all familiar with Bloomberg? They just wrote an article that came out about a month ago. Don't yell out, don't be mad. Just let me say what I need to say, okay? 27% of active military are food insecure. Get your head around that. And I know your first thought is, that's just not right. You're exactly right. So what are we going to do about it? I don't believe it's the federal government's responsibility. I mean, they are working. I understand what you're saying. But that's not, that dog's not hunting. So we can sit here and complain about it and, forgive my language, but bitch and moan about it. But that's not moving the needle for those 27% that are giving their lives for our country. So why don't we go feed them? It's a novel idea, right? And we are. We've been going to Fort Campbell, man. Surreal. Unbelievable. But what a privilege. Gosh, what a privilege. What a privilege. I can't imagine. You saw that video. Being a provider and you can't provide, I don't need you to make me feel any worse than I already do. I really don't, because I couldn't feel any worse than I felt at that moment. But man, what if, we talk about that, what if we could have went to some place like One Gen and somebody just smiled at us and said, hey man, we want to help you get to the next place. We want to hook you up to get your car fixed for free. What if? See, we don't have to what if anymore. We get to do. We get to do. Man, it's so cool. So we have these amazing partners like Second Harvest. We work with them hand in hand. Second Harvest Food Bank here in Tennessee. Operation Blessing out of Virginia Beach. They're a international organization. They were supposed to be here today, but they're training people to go to Myanmar right now. How cool is that? To rebuild houses and to serve and feed people. So we're partnering with them and to go national and serve. And so y'all know, I think you've heard this before, 96 cents on the dollar goes to what we do. So we're really good we try to be really good to steward what you all have blessed us. As Bob so rightly said, the funnel. And I believe I say this all the time, I believe if you're a conduit for what God has given you, He will make sure that conduit stays full. If you're not trying to clog it up and you're just putting it out there, He's going to keep giving and giving and giving as long as you'll give. So that's our job, is to steward these resources responsibly and get them where they need to go. And so we've been working really hard. So what we decided to do is, how do we get more food? See, because SNAP benefits are going to be lowered more than likely, which once again, that's what we do, man. We feed people. Summer feeding programs are coming up for kids. Guess what? If those have been cut back, opportunity, man. We got opportunity. This is our time. So we figured out a way that we could start. We decided, you know what? We're going to take a leap of faith. We're going to take another step. What if we could just start buying tractor trailer loads of food at a time instead of buying 3 and 4 pallets at a time from different stores and these different places? And then we're trying to buy 3 pallets of peanut butter, and we get a half a pallet of peanut butter because that's all they can give us. So Scott did a great job. He started calling around, and all of a sudden we had all these people bidding against each other to get us so we could get food. How cool is that? And we watched the price drop by almost $20,000 a load. So we can get 42,000 pounds? 42,000 pounds of food, corn, green beans, peanut butter, just those staple products for less than $1 a pound, delivered to our warehouse so that no one will be hungry. And we served 230 agencies last year. Rural Tennessee for free. How crazy is that? You ought to meet some of these people that serve in these small food pantries around the state, not getting paid, just trying to serve their community. And because of you, we get to provide them food. They can come and shop at our warehouse on Wednesdays for free. How crazy is that? Can you imagine? So we want to help them to be able to get access to the kind of food we get access to. And that cuts our cost. We're saving over 50%, right, from what we've been paying. So you think 96 cents on the dollar, I'm thinking, man, this might even get better now. So you might be asking yourself, why in the world am I in this room? And I want to answer that question for you. We need your money. That's why you're here. I know the breakfast was amazing. But this is our time. So before you think about it, some of you before you grab a thing on the table, there's cards on the table and there are QR codes. Before you do any of that, and I know some of you are like, I came in with a number. I heard several people tell me I came in with a number. Let me tell you something. This year, we've had several donors come together and pledge a $500,000 match. So let me explain that to you. So the last 2 years, we've raised $500,000 at this breakfast. So guess what? Some of you may not be too good with math, and sometimes I'm okay. But if there's already $500,000 pledged on the table, and you add $500,000, guess what we get? $1 million breakfast. And this $1 million breakfast is going to feed so many people. It's like, we're talking close to 5 million, meals. That's a lot of meals. That's a lot of people. Franklin, Tennessee. How cool is that? Looking at Senator Jack Johnson. Could you imagine out of Tennessee that something like that would happen nationally, coming out of this state? How cool is that? Isn't that amazing? Think about some of the people I'm looking at this room that have grown up and been raised in this community. And to think that out of Franklin, Tennessee, we end up wiping hunger off the face of America. And you get to be a part of that with us. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? So there is envelopes there's QR code you can scan. There's envelopes in there you can pledge. But man, this morning, $1 million breakfast to change the face of hunger. And I just want to say thank you for being here, getting up early, showing up here. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. Without you, we wouldn't be here, and you know that. And so thank you from the bottom of our hearts for volunteering, for giving, for serving, all the things you do to make this. Thank you for loving my family. Gosh, this town's been so good to us. Gosh, we're so grateful. Thank you for that Hyundai Santa Fe. Whew. A little big car, man. Isn't that good, babe? So we're going to play a little video while you all talk and think about it at your table. And once again, thank you.
Heavenly Father, we are humbled, grateful, honored that you would ask us to give birth to this amazing organization, one generation away. And Lord, I pray for every volunteer, Lord, that you would speak to them and show them the tremendous impact they've made on the lives of others. Lord, they'll walk into heaven and they'll see people that say, man, thank you for feeding me when I needed it. And Lord, for our friends that receive, God, I pray, Father, that they would have so much hope and courage to press into who you are and to say, man, God met my need. One Gen didn't meet their need. You met their need through One Gen. So God, I pray, Father, that every need would be met by the people that volunteer, by our friends we serve, by the people that work with us. God's spirit, soul, and body, every need is met. And God, may you use this simple thing of a person giving another person food to bring glory and honor to your name. And may it create a revival of love and grace and mercy that spreads throughout the world, that your kingdom will come on earth as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
I just want to thank you guys for being here. You have no idea what this means to us to have Bob here. I've tried for 3 years to have you here, and you're here. We have our friends here from St. Louis. But first, I just truly want to thank our family. You sacrificed so much. I just want to thank you. Also, we have an amazing staff, so I want you guys to stand up and be recognized, please. Come on, staff, stand up. Thank you. I think Annette is hiding somewhere, but
Yeah,
I just
Annette.
wanted to thank her because she is awesome.
Oh, there she is up there. Everybody look up, say Annette.
She hates us right now. Also, I wanted to thank our board members, former board members, and our current board members. Could you please stand up and be recognized? We have an amazing board. And I have to say that Jim Evans and Richard Allgood are here this morning, and they were our first board members.
Yeah.
Also, if you guys volunteer with us, please stand up and be recognized. Any volunteers, if you ever volunteered with us at food distribution, come on, you can do it. Thank you. Also want to thank our Rotary clubs because, wow, they've been amazing. They show up every Saturday that we do this. All the Rotaries around the whole town, the whole city. It's been awesome. Even at our disaster relief, when we're out of town, they show up. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's worth applause. You know, so Rotary is service above self, and the Rotarians in this room have heard me started to say this a lot. For those of you that don't know, Rotary has literally virtually ended polio in the world. So they've been providing polio shots for years, and it's down to a handful of cases now around the globe. And so my message to Rotary is, let's go hunger next. Service above self, right? So imagine the body of Christ, the church, Big C church in Rotary, we have enough people to end Rotary. And my 14, soon to be 14-year-old grandson sitting right here in front of me told his mom a few years ago, he said, I want you to tell Grandy, he said, when I get older, I'm gonna run One Gen, but I'm gonna take it international. Pretty cool, huh? I love that.
I just want to thank you guys, because truly you guys are the real heroes. It's not about us. It's not about our family. It's about you guys. And I just want to thank you guys for all that you do. Amen. So thank you.
Yeah, as Officer Schumann said, the rubber meets the road. And that begins. It's already begun, I understand that. But today, I believe, is a turning point for that rubber meeting the road. And we will forever be grateful for each and every one of you. And next year, let's see how many more people we get in this room and tell some crazy stories about, you know, we did 10 million pounds of food last year. You know, our food's up 40% this year already that we're giving away. And our expenses are under budget. That's the miraculous, right? That's only God can do that. It's that God math. It's really cool math. Isn't it, Bob? God math is way better than our math, isn't it? Just, you know. And so thank you, Bob Goff, for being here today. Thank you. So on that note, we're going to free you guys up to have the rest of your day. We're 7 minutes early. Wow. How's that? That's a good day. I just gave you all 7 minutes. You can put some dollar numbers on there and you can rewrite another one or just scan again. Hey, that QR code keeps working, by the way. It's not going anywhere. It'll keep working. So thank y'all. God bless you. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend.